I know that we haven't done this one in a while, and for those who know, welcome back. And today I decided that I just want to go and have a look at cars, and the aim was just to compare cars which I found on the Weelee dealership and also on Webuycars dealership. So right now I'm currently at Midstream. This is in Centurion. That's where the Weelee branch is found. I'm not so sure in terms of where the other branch is found. And after I finish here, I'm gonna go to Webuycars and actually compare the kind of cars which I found at the Weelee dealership and the kind of cars which I found at Webuycars dealership. And in terms of my observation, what do I see in terms of the differences, in terms of the appearance of the car, the condition, how it looks, and also in terms of the prices, if I feel that like whether the prices from Webuycars or the prices from Weelee actually make sense. The only thing that I can say in terms of Weelee, when I am online, I can say that online it doesn't do any justice in terms of this dealership. So what I can say is that you have to go there physically to actually see the kind of cars which are there in terms of the catalog, because every time when I see online, I don't know whether there's just no one who updates the website, but the last time when I was here the cars were completely different, but if I go online the same cars are still showing online, which is kind of weird. But the first thing that I noticed is that in terms of the cars that they have, I've seen a lot of improvements from the last time when I was here in terms of the car, how they look, and the cleanliness of the car, the paint job of the car. So that was very impressive. All these cars, they look very nice. All of these cars, they look very nice. So that's the first thing that I saw. So first thing of all, looking at this BMW, what you need to know is that if you are buying an old car, the first thing, like I just showed you there on the grass, there's something that is cracked. Usually the rubber is already cracked, but still that it didn't stop anyone from buying that car. So those cars are in very high demand currently, so people are going to the used market and actually buying such cars. And if you are also in the market for a used car, there's a lot of things that you need to check. You need to check also the rubbers, whether are there any cracked surface, because it doesn't make sense for you to spend money that is equivalent to a new car and still get a car that's in very bad condition. I mean, why would you buy in a car that's expensive that you can afford, whether it's Mercedes-Benz or BMW, the 3 Series that we just saw now, whereas you could get a cheaper car which is new like a Suzuki for the same price. So that's something that I noticed. So the other thing that I noticed is that I don't know what they're using to actually wash these cars, because all these cars is not only the camera quality that's actually showing a bit of shine from this car. What I can say is that most of these cars, the paintwork, like it looks very crisp, and also it seems like they've really improved in terms of the pricing, especially the cars that are supposed to be cheap. They are actually cheap, but there's also those cars that are supposed to be cheap, they are a bit more expensive. So the only thing that I noticed when I was busy roaming around or walking around in this dealership is that most of the cars are already sold. So someone has already bought the car. Seems like people are buying cars left and right. I don't know where you guys are getting all this money, especially when the repo rate is so high. It's still not stopping people from actually buying cars. And the other thing that I noticed in terms of when I was walking around, there's something that I always check at Webuycars, the cars in terms of the condition. Most of them, even if they are old cars, it's cars, some of them you'll think that this car is just gonna break when you're busy driving around with it. Here it's not something that I was able to observe. For example, let's have a look at this half hour here. So this one is a bit of an old model. So this model came out before all the other models that you see here, or half hour Julian, before they came out. So this one came out a long time ago, and it was using a Toyota engine. So this car is very low mileage, and the price actually makes sense. And also for those ones who actually like SUVs, I noticed that there's also SUVs which are present. So the other thing that I check when I check cars, I also check the tires. How good are the tires? Because tires are very expensive, guys. Like, you're gonna feel it when you need to replace the tires. So it doesn't make sense for you to buy an old car and now you have to start by replacing the tires. I mean, at a buggy like this, you can just see that tire. I don't know how much you're gonna spend. So the other car that it actually grabbed my eye because I always see it on the road. Like, I've seen more often of it. So it's this Ford EcoSport. So initially I used to think that Ford had actually discontinued this car and they're no longer releasing other models, but it seems like there's still a lot of them in the market, and most of them, they're using newer technology. So that's also another car that I saw here at Webuycars. Not at Webuycars, we're still at the Weelee. So here's another car, the Honda, the most reliable brand. So that car that you just saw now, that car is being sold. Here's another EcoSport. Look at the tires that is wearing. Like, these tires actually look really nice. The car actually look really nice. It's just that the EcoSport, for me, it's that car that always has issues, but you can see that if you want one, you can actually find one here. So right here we have actually arrived at a slot for cars that are currently on auction. So I had no idea that Weelee actually offers auction. I don't know in terms of whether that auction is offered in person or you need to go somewhere. That one I don't know, but what I noticed is that all these cars, they actually have a paper outside to say lot 01, lot 02, and the extra price. And the ones which are sold, it will indicate whether this one is sold or not sold. So if you want a car that's actually in auction, you can come here at this side. You can see all the cars and actually go around and look and actually check at the car condition before you actually start buying on auction. I don't know about Webuycars whether it offers such thing. So here's another car that's on auction. Yeah, I must say, like, it's a very tempting one. I mean, it's made from the Germans, but you can already see lot 30. Someone has already bought that car, so someone got tempted the same way as me, and they decided that, you know what, we're gonna take it. So definitely I suspect someone to actually come back and take that car. So other people, they actually put a reserve in terms of the car. I don't know how this one works, to be honest. If I'm honest, I haven't done enough research in terms of Weelee and the auction, because I don't have much knowledge. I only know about Webuycars that you have to reserve the car by 5,000, whether it's on auction or not on auction. If I remember well, you are able to reserve that car for 2 days. For 2 days, you're able to reserve it for 48 hours before you can decide whether you want to buy that car. So here's another car that I found. Yeah, the one from the Chinese or model. I gotta say, it actually doesn't look all that bad inside, to be honest. But you can see the tag. The tag looks nice, but it almost looks like a gimmick, you know. It does offer nice tag, but when you're inside the car, it doesn't have that premium feel. Maybe the one that you actually get from the German side. So going back to other cars, here's another car that I actually like. I like the CX-5. I also like that design feature that they put where the emblem almost seem like is actually floating in mid-air. And also in terms of the price, like, it's very low because this car actually has around 15,000 in terms of the kilometers. So if no one really manipulated the kilometers, it's not really such a bad buy. But the problem is that it's a manual. I don't think no one wants to buy a car that big and it's a manual. No one wants to be busy changing their own gears. So the T-Cross, there's always been that car that's a bit more expensive than what it offers. Yeah, same here. If you come to this dealership, you can't expect any less than that. The car is still very expensive. So here you find a mixture of old and new cars. What I can tell you in terms of BMW, the cars are old, but if you actually go towards the Chinese manufacturers such as the Hafal, this one you can see by the blue stripes, this is the Hafal Julion, the hybrid version. Yeah, while I was busy recording, there's someone who just decided that they wanna buy a car. That's why I'm saying you guys have money. When the economy is so bad like this, it still is not stopping anyone from actually going to buy cars. So most of the cars that I see here at the Weelee dealership, the ones from the Chinese manufacturer, most of them, they are still brand new. So the other thing that I wanted to check, I wanted to compare in terms of the Hyundai i20, the current generation versus the previous generation, and I just happened to actually find the actual ones that I wanted to compare. So this is actually the current generation, but mind you, this is not the top of the spec because this one doesn't even have LED lights, so you get halogen. So here's a red sign that I saw. I don't know if you saw there, if you freeze the video. So what I saw there is that the light actually has dirt inside, which doesn't make sense because that's a new car. Definitely for me, that's a red sign. You find that that car has an accident history and it was fixed before. So going to the previous version, which I actually liked better than that one, look at the price, it's actually more than that one, because even the one who was busy evaluating the cars, their brains were actually working to be able to recognize that that other Hyundai has a problem. And also in terms of the design feature, I would actually give the hands up from the previous version that actually looks better than the current one. Yeah, here's something that I found. Actually my woman actually liked this one. So you can see this is Suzuki. Yeah, I think if you want a Suzuki, now I would just encourage you to just go to the Suzuki dealership. I don't think it makes sense for you to be able to go buy at Weelee dealership or Webuycars. Those are just cars which are affordable in terms of price. we have arrived at Webuycars to get a different kind of experience. The first thing that I noted as soon as I entered through the door, I was greeted by Fortuners. I don't know how many Fortuners I saw. Is it because the petrol is expensive and people are actually trading in Fortuners? I mean, even when I went to Weelee, I didn't see these many Fortuners. I'll just show you in terms of how many Fortuners I actually saw. There are too many to a point that I wasn't even able to count. But before we go there, you can already see besides the Fortuners, there's other cars that actually eat petrol or diesel. Here's one of them. But just look how many Fortuners are there. I don't know if you're able to count from the image, so I'll just try to zoom in and you guys can actually try to estimate in terms of how many Fortuners are present at Webuycars. So this whole row, those are Fortuners. All of that, those are Fortuners. You can see the camera is focusing. Those are Fortuners. I don't know how many Fortuners. What's happening? Our old friends actually trading in their Fortuners because they're eating too much petrol. Come to think of it, even on the road, I've actually started to see less and less Fortuners. Maybe we can say that this is a good note that people are actually downgrading and actually going to cars that they can afford and cars that actually don't eat more petrol. So talking about cars that we can afford, what I noted about Webuycars is that it has more expensive cars than the ones that we find at Weelee. But mind you, what I can tell you is that you need to inspect your cars. Look, this is the most expensive car, but it already has a flat tire. I don't even want to imagine how much you need to spend at this type of tire. The thing that I was supposed to check whether is it a Michelin tire, is it Pirelli, you know those brands of tires which are so expensive. I was supposed to check that. Imagine spending almost 800,000 on a car and it already has a flat tire. Sometimes we just need to accept that we cannot afford a car and actually leave it to other people that they can afford. So one thing about Range Rover, yeah, there's Land Rover, there's Range Rover. You can see here's another one. It has a flat tire, but maybe I'll forgive it because this is a very old model. I don't know in terms of which year, but all I remember is that growing up I used to see those kind of cars on the road. So this thing about cars, whether they don't have proper tires, that's also something that's a recurrent feature. And what I can tell you is that maybe it's the light or something, but just walking around and seeing the cars in terms of the cleanliness at Webuycars, some of the cars, they're not so clean. I don't know whether the people just don't clean them or what. They're not clean, but from time to time you're gonna see a car that's tempting. Look at this, 15,000 kilometers for a Suzuki Swift Sport. This one, yeah, this one, I gotta say, this one, it tempted me for a minute. So I went around, I checked the tires looked good. I checked the paintwork looked good, so I tried opening it. So yes, another thing before I forget, cars at Weelee dealership and Webuycars, before you could go around actually open the car and actually inspect the car inside yourself, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You have to call someone to actually come and open the car. So all the cars that you see now, they are locked. You will be lucky if you actually find a car that's currently still open. So on other note, besides the cars which are very expensive at Webuycars, occasionally when you're walking around and browsing, you're gonna find cars which are very affordable, like the Hyundai just next to us. And you just need to check, guys. You just need to check. The more you check, the more you actually be able to find cars that are still in good condition and some are not in good condition. So here I was actually curious to actually check in terms of the Polo and the Baleno in terms of the prices. What I noted is that this Polo, this is the comfort line, it's actually going at a price of a new car, but the condition of the car, when I look at it, the car, if I'm honest, it doesn't look new. And you can see the kilometers. I don't know if you can see the kilometers are around 4,000 kilometers. Probably the previous owner who was using the car, they were not taking care of the car. So this Baleno one, this is a very old model. The kilometers are very high, and even for that price, for me, it doesn't make sense at all. It has to make sense, especially if you are spending money. So in terms of this dealership, this one, the one for Webuycars, this one has a top and bottom, so you can go up and actually look at more cars. Some of the cars that you see on top are the cars that actually haven't been allocated prices. Looking at cars that most of us cannot afford, here we are looking at the Hyundai i30. So this is a car that it's very rare to actually find in terms of the used market, also because it's very expensive. But I don't lie, it's a good car, but I'm not so sure in terms of the price. So this one, yeah, like I said, it's very rare to actually find in terms of the used market. It's already reserved, which means someone probably they're gonna end up purchasing the car. So there's something that's recurring. So before, when I used to work at Weelee dealership, I used to note a lot of old cars that you can just see that these cars are old. But now it seems like it's the other way around. So that thing that you need to know about Webuycars recently is listed on the JACE. It means that you can buy the shares at easy equities. As a result, they are pushing to sell more cars. It doesn't seem like they are checking now in terms of what kind of cars they are selling. Yeah, talking about something of interest, the new Polo 2024 or 2025, it's gonna have these lights and they're gonna call it a new car. So this model started around 2015, 2016, if I remember well. So those are the lights that they're gonna give you and say the car is new, but at least the price hasn't changed. So yeah, that's just something in an area of interest in terms of the Polo. So initially this car was called a Polo TSI. So once you see that, you're not gonna unsee, because I was surprised. I was starting to actually see this type of cars. Can't you know, when you look at the badge is the current badge, because you know that VW has actually changed the badge. So yeah, that's something of area of interest. Going back to Webuycars is being listed on the JACE. So as a result, they're trying to push their share price of actually selling more cars. So what I've noticed is that in terms of the quality of the cars that you actually find at Webuycars, that has suffered a lot. It seems like now they just buy any car from anyone who comes and they're selling the car, then they're gonna put it back to the market and sell it. So you have to be very cautious. I mean, look at this one, the paint is peeling off. Usually that's a sign that the car has an extant history and someone actually fixed it and painted it. So it's not good, it's not looking good. Like, so far in my eyes, I can say that the cars that are found at Weelee, they're actually winning. So they're actually winning in terms of the condition of the cars. But at the same time, how the car looks on the outside doesn't really tell you anything. The advice that I can say from people is that if you want to buy a car, especially the modern cars, get a proper mechanic, not the mechanic that you find from the streets, the mechanic that actually goes around with a computer, the one that scans the car, actually scan the car and get all the codes that are present on the car. That will actually tell you in terms of the history of the car whether this car is a good buy or not. Because definitely from what I'm seeing here, a lot of cars, they seem to be some shady cars, and other people are actually gonna spend their hard-earned money in these cars. So moving on to a very interesting car that I found here at Webuycars. So this is the Audi e-tron. Yeah, the last time I checked, this was the quickest Audi present in terms of acceleration. I don't want to lie, in terms of the outside, it doesn't look menacing, to be honest. I rather buy the Ford Mustang over this one, but it just looks like a normal Audi, but it's big. Like, I don't want to tell you how big the tires are in terms of the tires that it's wearing. So what you see there, the opening, the first one that I pointed in, that's where you plug your charger. You better hope that Escom doesn't take the electricity. So yeah, that's the last interesting car that I saw at Webuycars. In terms of my verdict is that in terms of Weelee, it has cars which are in better condition, and Webuycars, some of their cars, they look sketchy. So both of them, I would say do research and actually go check the cars. Yeah, that's all that I have for you today. Bye.